Yeah, I took, let's see, I don't actually remember the first song I ever composed. I think probably the first, we did a lot of these creative activities growing up. I think that I laugh because, my mom is also, I mean, she's on the one hand an incredibly creative pedagogue and is very good at drawing people out to, she's also a pretty strong personality. So I'm thinking that probably the first piece I ever composed is probably when she told me to, she said, oh, you should write a piano piece. Are you writing your piano piece? Or something like that, maybe. So there's probably some piece maybe when I was in middle school that I can't remember now. I did take composition lessons when I was in high school. So I wrote, piano pieces. I wrote some chamber music. I don't think any of that was particularly interesting. I don't remember too much of it. I did have, I went to Fieldston here in New York, so quite an interesting creative school. And I actually have more close friends who've stayed friends from Fieldston than I do from Juilliard, as a matter of fact. There were a lot of like-minded spirits. And one of my friends there was a very good writer. He's now a big screenwriter in Hollywood and a terrific musician. So the two of us had a kind of two-man music group, and we'd I put headphones, there was no such thing as an amplified cello at that point. So I took headphones, turned my cello on its side, kind of like a gigantic bass, and put headphones on clamped them around the belly of the cello so they were like a microphone. They amplified the cello. And he played guitar or keyboard, and we wrote a lot of songs together. So the first songs that I really were actually kind of pop songs that we did together. And we had tape recorders at home, and I used to go into the studio and record multiple tracks or change the quality of sound, things like that. And then, the first music that I remember really investing in that I composed was kind of the second I got to college, to University of California at Santa Cruz. And they started out being for kind of a music history course or a music theory course or a composition course, so not really where you'd expect to do anything interesting. But I think the bug of writing music had just been growing in me, and that was the right environment for me to say, oh my gosh, this is me. I've got a million ideas, and I want to have people play these pieces, and they're things I want to think about in terms of structure or how I want people to listen. And so I wrote quite a bit that first year at Santa Cruz, and then just kind of kept going. Yeah, so the way I listen to music goes in waves, depending on a lot of things, kind of how busy I am, if I'm in between composition projects, if I'm starting a new project. So the only time usually I listen to the radio for music is with my daughters when I'm driving them to school or driving them somewhere. And it's always, I think they'd kill me if I put the radio onto a station that I wanted to listen to. So it's always one of their stations. So I listen to a lot of, they're 15 and 12. I must say, just in this last year, their taste has it has changed from, really vanilla top 40, either totally pop or hip hop. They're kind of two kinds of stations these days. And but now they listen to a lot more kind of indie music, and so I listen to a lot of just music that teenagers are listening to because I'm around them. And then I exercise. I do rowing on a rowing machine in my. We live on a farm right near Boston, and I have a big barn that we converted to my music studio. So I go there early in the morning, and the first thing I do is rowing, and that's when I listen to a lot of music. So I row for about 40, 45 minutes every morning, and put on my iPod, and it's a huge range. That's when I listen to either things that I just love and know very well and just want to pay attention to. It's also where I listen to things that are new that I want to get to know, and things that are new might be new recordings of traditional repertoire by people who I really like. And there's a pianist named Pierre who I've known for years, who's a specialist in contemporary music, but also has been recording a lot of Bach. And every time he comes out with something new, I'll listen to that very carefully. I I listen to, new music by composers who are interesting to me. I listen to some, some, I don't know if I want to call it pop, but, some interesting artists who catch my attention I listen to in the mornings. But strangely, the thing I listen to 75% of the time when I'm exercising with my headphones on is English Elizabethan music, or Tudor Elizabethan music. So music from like about 1450 to the early 1600s. And and this is music that's attracted me for years, ever since I was probably in high school. And I love Bach, I love Beethoven, I love Mozart, I love the Beatles, I love Stockhausen, and I love many things. But for some reason, I come back to Elizabethan music because a little bit like the Beatles, it has. I don't think it's an accident that it's English. England has had a lot of really bad periods of music, but it's had several amazing periods where they've found an incredible balance, not just between music that's rather complex and also pretty direct, like the Beatles. Everybody likes it because the tunes are memorable, and any Beatles song is perfect. It gets to you right away. But if you look at the orchestration and the way the voices blend and the way the instruments are used, and if you listen carefully to subsidiary voices which are not the main bass line or the main harmony, it's very, very, I don't know if complex is the word, but it's very rich, much more than most pop music. So it's managed to combine complexity and simplicity in a very special way. And I think it took influences from all around the world. England's a little isolated, so when it clicks, and Tudor and Elizabethan music's like that. It's extremely calming. It always takes me to another place. It's also very, very stable and simple at the same time. There are these melodic lines that do the craziest things, much more interesting than what people were doing in other countries. And it's also harmonic. The English learned, in my view, how to use harmony much earlier than the French or the Italians or the Germans. So you have these crazy lines colliding against each other, whether it's string music or vocal music. And at the same time, these beautiful chord progressions that are, very modern in a lot of ways. So I just keep discovering new music from that period. New recordings, or somebody will discover at some castle, a trove of music that nobody ever played before. And for some reason, I listen to that a lot. I almost never these days sit down with a CD or my laptop and kind of just listen to a piece with a score. I probably would do that while I'm exercising. I love silence, and one of the paradoxes about the way I live and also about my work is that definitely one of the reasons that I went into music, and especially into composing, is that I love setting up an environment where I can be by myself for long periods of time and have everything as quiet as possible, either to think about sound, or to think about ideas, or just to focus on things that are important to me. So I do that. The barn where I work, it's only 15 minutes or so from Harvard Square, so it's very close to the center of Boston, but it happens to be a total oasis. It's completely quiet in there. You'd think you were out in, I don't know, the forest somewhere. And then at the same time, I work at MIT, which is this lab, which is the center of high technology and new ideas, and there are people all over the place, and it's a very beautiful building, actually, but it's it's quite intense, and there are always people who want to talk to you about something, and so I kind of go back and forth. But one of the things I like most of all is being in my study, in my barn, with absolutely no sound anywhere, thinking about something. Yeah, it's extremely important to me.